She says,
What you got, Jim?
I saw this. It's got all zeros.
It does have all zeros.
Yeah.
Should we open it to the group?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a 0-calorie golden syrup.
oh, it's, skinny, in the skinny range. They do a caramel,
Yeah,
little one.
Yeah,
the ones that I have in my coffee.
Okay,
Sorry?
so we go, okay, 0 calorie, how's that possible?
Yeah.
And then we turn it over.
Popping it to read what the...
What are we expecting to see from a 0? Hello, everyone.
It's
Hello,
not
hello.
good.
Loads of E's and loads of...
So we don't have them as E's, but we have some stuff, like we got thickeners, we got some xanthan gum, which can cause some problems. And we've also got sucralose, which can also cause a couple of digestive problems, and then some preservatives and stuff. So it depends. I mean, if you're using it and you feel good, oh yeah.
All of a sudden she might not.
If you're going to use it, I would suggest you look out for how you're feeling stomach-wise.
Yeah.
What's that?
In the food language.
And sometimes that happens. How are you guys all doing?
Oh, sorry, us.
No, you're good, you're good. We've got some new faces in the room. Welcome. It's nice to see everybody.
I don't know which one.
So, what time is it?
Yes, turn my phone off.
But I can't find the film. We're talking about Peter Pan, the live version, but there's so many on there.
This is the most I think we've had in this room so far. This is great. Thank you everyone for coming. Firstly, lovely to see you all again. How have you all been doing? Yeah? So far so good? Sleep and rest. That's why I thought we'd do this one, because I heard some of you say last time, hello, welcome, come on in. How are you doing? Nice. Come on in. So, what I thought we'd do is we'll start with the seminar, and today we're going to do it on sleep and rest. We'll connect the dots between other topics just like we always do, and if you have anything that you want to bring up, just go for it and we'll add it in. But then afterwards, we'll do the book stuff. Does that work?
Yeah.
And then how would you guys feel about, and you can say no to this, being a part of like a promo video for the book release?
Oh, you could have let me do my hair.
I think your hair looks lovely.
Yeah. I don't mind.
You don't have to be in it, but if you want to be in it, it'll be great. Because what we're going to do, right, is I've got the books in the box there. We're going to set up a stack, and then if you want me to, I can sign it, and then that will look cool for the video. And then later, it'll be like, wow, I've just got Zach's. You can be like, wow, I just got Zach's new book, and then you hold it up to the camera, and then everyone will be like, wow, I need to get that same book. So anyway.
I'm just glad I can delete all my screenshots.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
I don't have to keep going through the front. Where was it?
So, let's get into it. Firstly, how are we all sleeping? How much rest do you feel like you get? Dreadful? Let's do, no, you're good. Welcome. Let's do it by show of hands. Who sleeps well?
Yeah.
Who sleeps poorly? And who's like this? Okay, so actually the majority sleep rather poorly. What kind of things have you done in the past to try and improve your sleep?
Everything you told me to.
Nice. Brilliant answer. Say that to the microphone,
Yeah.
for no.
Everything.
It did work for a while though for you.
It did,
Okay.
and there are still things now that I just do automatically. Wouldn't even dream of having a coffee after 9 o'clock now. And, you know, things, little changes, but they
Yeah.
did make a dramatic difference.
Good. And you said did. Has your sleep gotten worse again?
I've not done anything But I think now it's time. I run out of time, and then I look and think, oh, it's midnight. I better get bed. I've got to be up at 7:15. So I think it's more.
Yeah, I get you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully today will be a reminder of some of the things that we talked about the last time we did this. And for anybody who hasn't been to one of my sleep sessions yet, this will be good because we'll be able to connect the dots to loads of different topics. So this will be a good revision session. But does anybody else care to share anything that you have done to try and improve your sleep, or anything that you've done recently, general changes that you've made?
Hot water helps me a little bit.
Yeah? What, in going to sleep at night? Nice. How long have you done that for?
Oh, about a month.
Nice.
That does help a little bit.
Okay.
I'm still up and down.
Okay. Okay.
I get Alexa to...
Chamomile tea?
It
Nice.
sets me to sleep, but it doesn't maintain.
Okay, I get you.
And then around 3 or so, 3.
Yeah, that seems to be the time.
So staying asleep is a difficulty? Okay.
I was going to say, I get Alexa to read me a story now, just to go to sleep, because it takes my mind off of the thinking. Because you get in bed and you're thinking about everything. So I get it to play a story. I don't often hear the end of it.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, they go for half an hour. So, but I've gone to sleep. But then with the pills that I'm on, I'm up every 2 hours anyway. So then I'm back to the vicious circle.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
working a bit.
And for anybody who sleeps better, is there anything that you do that actually is really helpful? Like is a good tip for anybody? I forgot nobody put their hands up when we said who's a good sleeper. That's okay. Hopefully after today you'll have some good tips for yourselves. So let's get into it. The importance of sleep. We need it because it allows us to restore our brain and our body. Every day you use your body, every day you use your brain, and there are cells that need replacing. There's muscle that needs building. There's bone cells that need replacing, and this happens daily, monthly, yearly, and we need the sleep in order to be able to allow that change to happen internally. But without adequate sleep, our health begins to deteriorate, and these are a number of conditions that are associated with sleep deprivation. So a person isn't sleeping and suddenly their risk of type 2 diabetes goes up. Certain forms of cancer, high blood pressure, depression, dementia. And you'll notice that there's a variety of different things there. We're not just talking about physical ailments, we're also talking about mental conditions as well. So it's important to consider health relates to your sleep relates to your holistic health, and therefore we have to look holistically at our sleep in order to make an improvement. That will hopefully then help us to reduce our risk of all of this. Is there anything there that surprises you? Or are we not surprised?
I think the fact that sleep deprivation is like linked to cancer is quite interesting.
Yeah, and quite a scary one as well, right?
What is falling? Is that, you mean someone's fallen?
Yeah, yeah, like your risk of falls and trips and stuff. Also on that, I now have somebody who should be able to come in and do a talk on falls prevention and like we've talked about. So hopefully at some point I'll have that person come in as like a guest speaker. So that's gonna be really good. But yeah, scary list. But fortunately, if we say to ourselves, okay, I'm gonna work on my sleep routine, I'm gonna work on my sleep habits, I'm gonna try and sleep better, hopefully that can reduce all of this. So sleep and diabetes, that's an interesting topic. I bring that up because that relates to a lot of people in the room. A lot of people are either type 2 diabetic, pre-diabetic, but at the end of the day, we can all do our best to reduce our risk of developing diabetes. High blood sugar makes you more likely to wake up and go to the toilet. And not just at night, but if your blood sugar is high. So for example, if my blood sugar was through the roof right now, I would be more likely to go use the toilet because that's how the body flushes out the excess sugar. Now, tonight, I wake up more frequently to go to the toilet, which means that I am now going to be sleep deprived tomorrow. The more sleep deprived we are, the less insulin your body naturally produces. So if you remember from other sessions we've done, insulin is what actually helps us to regulate our blood sugar properly. So our blood sugar goes up, our insulin levels go up, and our blood sugar should begin to fall. But this means that if we are continuously sleep deprived, our blood sugar might go up, but now we're going to be producing less insulin, meaning that our blood sugar is not as likely to return to normal, which of course means that tonight we're going to bed and our blood sugar is more likely to be higher because we got less insulin in our body, and then suddenly we're waking up more frequently, and then the next day we're more sleep deprived, and so on and so forth, right? So that's one example of sleep being a very important component to our health. Does this relate to you? Do you feel like, do you wake up frequently to go to the toilet at night, and do you feel like you can connect these dots? Okay. So, do you have anything to add to this, or any questions?
I find that because I drink a lot of water during the day, I don't feel like I've got rid of all the water by the time I go to sleep. So even if I'm not sipping water at night, I still get up to do the wee.
I get that. And it's tricky as well because you don't want to be dehydrated.
I don't have a sleep pattern now. I mean, like last week, I'm still awake at 4:30 a.m. So I've got up and done something, went back to bed and had a few hours sleep. But there's other times where I do get up several times during the night. So it's not one thing or the other.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Well, hopefully we can also then try and narrow down the reason for why I'm not sleeping as good as I could be. So the sleep-wake cycle. This is exactly as it sounds, the cycle every day where we fall asleep and then we wake up the next morning. Now, the hormones responsible are melatonin. Melatonin, do you want to hazard a guess as to whether that makes you fall asleep or wake up?
Makes you fall asleep.
And cortisol? Cortisol wakes you up. Cortisol, what other topic does that relate to? Yeah, nice. So cortisol is one of your stress hormones. And what's really interesting is that if I say cortisol, do you think good or bad? You think bad because I just said stress hormone, right? But actually, in most cases, cortisol will just kind of rise and fall at different times of the day. When you're stressed, yes, but in the morning, when you wake up, your cortisol levels actually begin to rise naturally in order to cause your blood sugar to go up a little bit to energize you for the day. So it's not entirely a bad thing. However, if your cortisol levels are high tonight, you're less likely to fall asleep. We actually want our melatonin levels to be higher tonight instead. Does that make sense? So really we want to get our body into a state of homeostasis. Do you know what I mean by that? So homeostasis is stability. We want to get to a point where our body is functioning correctly. It is just operating as it should. And we're going to talk about circadian rhythms in a little bit. That relates to this. So ideally what would happen is every morning my cortisol levels would begin to rise. I'll wake up, I'll be energized for the day. In the evening, my cortisol levels will fall, my melatonin levels will rise, and that will send me off to sleep. But if my body isn't regulating itself correctly, then I might be reversed. I might be awake at 4:30 in the morning and falling asleep at 2 p.m. You know what I mean? So let's look at sleep stages. There are 4 sleep stages. Sorry, this isn't the best writing I could have used. The sleep stages look like this. We've got non-REM sleep, and then we've got REM sleep, and there are 3 non-REM stages. So non-REM 1 is the shortest stage. You know when you're asleep or somebody next to you is asleep and they twitch a little bit? That's usually in that first stage of sleep. Non-REM 2 is the longest stage. Non-REM 3 is the deepest and most restorative, and this is where we are consolidating information and memories and things that we've learned throughout the day, and we're kind of putting it in a timeline almost. And then lastly is REM, where we have vivid dreams, and it sounds a bit scary, but we have muscle paralysis. So you are asleep, your eyes are moving underneath the surface. See how my eyes are moving under my eyelids? But my body can't move, and that's basically to prevent me from acting out my dreams and going and doing stuff while I'm meant to be sleeping. So what we really want is to go non-REM 1, 2, 3, REM. Sometimes there's a bit back and forth, like sometimes you'll go 3 back to 2 and then back up. But either way, we want to go through all of these stages every single night. Ideally, we want to go through 5 sleep cycles per night. 1 sleep cycle is 90 minutes. That means that we get 7.5 hours sleep, ideally. However, I can already see some of you laughing at that, because how many hours of sleep are you getting, roughly?
I would say on average,
5?
yeah.
6.
Okay. 6? 6, okay. And do you feel like you could do with more? Yeah. So that probably means that you could probably do with 1 extra sleep cycle, and then you might feel great.
8 hours, 1 minute last night.
Nice. So you got even more.
Yeah.
Nice.
But mine is better than it ever was.
Good. Good. Okay. See if we can get that up to 9 hours.
I ain't got time to sleep for 9 hours.
So, circadian rhythms. Actually, let me get rid of it. Do you know what I mean by circadian rhythms? Does that ring a bell?
Body clock, really, isn't it? Just what you
Yeah.
know every day.
Nice. Yeah, your circadian rhythms is essentially the body clock. Circadian, circular, we go through a 24-hour cycle every single day. And there are things that happen inside of your body that will just happen automatically. So for example, how many of you can wake up every day without an alarm? That's an example of a circadian rhythm, because your body is accustomed to, okay, wake up, wake up, wake up. That's the reason why when you go on holiday and that circadian rhythm gets thrown off, now you're waking up at a different time, and it's a struggle to get back to that regulated pattern, right? So this is so important because this will influence a number of different aspects of your health, but also like how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis. So hunger, energy, mood, blood sugar, blood pressure, and sleep. Realistically, if we can start to get into good routines, good patterns of behavior on a daily basis, your circadian rhythms will get essentially stronger. They'll get better. And that means that every day you will be more likely to fall asleep at 10 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. and get hungry at 2 p.m. and feel energized at 10 a.m. and so on and so forth. That's the reason why routine and patterns are so important, because they become ingrained in those rhythms. Does that make sense? So if you're looking for a reason to start getting into positive cycles of behavior, this is a really good reason, because it means that you will be able to start regulating your body automatically because you've put these positive behaviors in place.
Is that why when I was working, I was able to have really lovely sleep, long periods of time, no problem at all. Didn't matter what I did during the day, I would always have almost uninterrupted sleep. When I retired, all that routine went, and I was doing stuff all over the place at different times. And so this circadian rhythm became disrupted.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I hear that quite frequently. A lot of the people who I work with who have retired say 30 years, great sleep, good routine and all of that. And then I retired, and then suddenly I wake up sporadically and I can't really, get into a routine and pattern. And yeah, it's exactly that reason. So how many of you feel like this is an area of your health that you could generally improve, sleep aside? Okay, so that means that getting into those routines and habits that we've been talking about throughout all these sessions can help you to improve this function automatically. So let's go through some of the factors that affect your sleep. I've put on a lot of things here. We're going to go through all of them. And hopefully you'll take something away that you could try for yourself. And really, I would just recommend making little adjustments here and there. Little change here, little reduction there, little experimentation. And you might find that you start sleeping a lot better. And you might be surprised. One little environmental change, and you could suddenly get an extra hour and a half, or you might sleep deeper, meaning that you'll get more rest. Straight away though, are you seeing anything here that you're like, yeah, I could work on that, I could adjust this?
Well, my thing was the light thing. I did that and it literally changed overnight. I read before I go to sleep, and I used to do it by the bedside lamp, and I'd be leaning like that. And then you said get the yellow light to clip on the book, and I got that. I read my book and then I'm like that. The yellow light, no problem.
Yeah, so let's start there then. Light is a really big one.
Yeah.
The light will affect what time your brain perceives it to be. So if we are seeing a lot of bright blue light, the body and brain are going to think that it's daytime. And if we are seeing dim light or no light, the body's going to think that it's nighttime, which is when we are programmed to be asleep. And I know that some of us are I'm a night owl. Some people are more morning people, but generally speaking, it will still work the same. So in this case, you went from seeing the blue light being stuff like this, like fluorescent lights, LED bulbs, either screens, the laptop, the phone, all that stuff emits that blue light. And it's at a higher frequency. The benefit of then changing to a more dim or a more yellow light is that the frequency is lower, and so you end up the blue light mimics sunshine, essentially. So the brain thinks, oh, it's daytime, I don't need to be asleep right now. Whereas the yellow light starts to make your brain go, oh, okay, I can start to chill out. Does that make sense? So that's one easy change. On your phone, you can turn on night mode, and that's really good because it literally dims it down, it makes it more sepia, you know, like the filter. So that's something you could try. Alcohol is a big one. Alcohol, interestingly, makes people feel like they can sleep better, but actually it doesn't help you to sleep deeper. That's the problem. So it's almost like a superficial sleep. You might fall asleep, but whether you actually get the rest that your brain needs is a different story. So a lot of people cut back on alcohol, and that's their takeaway from this. Routine, generally, again, bringing us back to the circadian rhythms. Let's say every evening, I'm going to bed at random times. I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. and then 1 a.m. and then 2 a.m. and then back to 9:30 and I'm just all over the place. If I'm doing that, my circadian rhythms can't keep up. I don't know what time I should be going to bed and my body doesn't know what to do to help me to fall asleep. If I am accustomed though to going to bed at 10 p.m. let's say, the next day, my body's going to make those changes that I'm looking for. So my melatonin's going to go up, my cortisol's going to go down. Now suddenly I'm more likely to fall asleep. Then the next day comes along, 24 hours later, and now I'm more likely to fall asleep at that same time because that's when I fell asleep yesterday. Now, I can't lie, I'm not the best with that one because I like my late nights, but then I sometimes have early mornings. So then if I don't have an early morning, I'll be up later, and if I do have an early morning, I'll go to bed earlier. So that's something that I'm trying to work on myself. Is that something that any of you could work on? Adding a bit more rigidity into that routine? Okay. Stress, big one. I saw a couple of you nod already when I brought it up. Now this is troubling because we can't always eradicate stress, right? And then you end up all night and thoughts start to go around in circles in your head. And do you ever have it where you're actually fine? You're feeling good, you've had a nice day, and then you're laying in there in bed, and then suddenly a thought like creeps its way up to the forefront of your brain, and now suddenly you're wired, you're awake, you're thinking for 3 hours, you're looking at the clock. How is that making you feel?
Why can't I go to sleep?
Why can't I go to sleep? Making you feel worse. So then it's a spiral, right? But when you're in that stressed state, your body is preparing for action. For whatever reason. It could be that you are thinking about a bill that needs to be paid. It could be that you are thinking there's something dangerous going on outside the house, or it could be that there's a problem that you foresee happening in a year from now. But you're experiencing the stress now because your body's saying, oh, there's a problem, I need to get ready for whatever that problem may be. So that's not conducive for falling asleep, frankly. But we need to be aware of the stress and then take steps to reduce the stress. But we need to first be aware that we are stressed. How do we become aware of the fact that we're stressed?
Recognize the symptoms.
Nice. Have you been reading this book? Nice. We need to recognize the symptoms. So what are some of your symptoms of stress? What are things that happen internally or mentally or whatever that helps you understand that you're stressed?
You look at me.
Ben, what does mummy do when she's stressed?
That's right, tick.
Yeah.
According to him.
So then I need to do stuff to be able to bring that down. So what we could do is before we finish today, we can do some breathing exercises. And then at some point, we'll do like a whole session on just breathing and mindfulness and stuff like that to give you a few extra tools. We actually did one before Christmas.
And guess who fell asleep?
And
Twice.
it was effective, right?
Yeah, it was.
That's a big one. We will do another session on stress primarily, like we'll do a whole session on stress. But that's a big one for us to think about. And what I don't want you to do is be stressed for 5 hours, focused on the thing that you are stressed about, rather than taking time to say, what can I do to alleviate this stress? Because it might take you an hour, but that's an hour well spent if you can bring those stress levels down. I actually had that yesterday. It wasn't like nighttime, it was daytime. And I woke up and I just had this incessant thought in my head that was telling me that I needed to do more with my day than I was currently doing. But I didn't know what more meant. Like I didn't know what I needed to be doing to fulfill the order that my brain was giving me. So then I decided, you know what? Instead of listening to that and stressing myself over doing something but not knowing what it is, I'm actually going to make the task to just relax. So then I took 10 minutes, I wrote down what it was I was feeling, I did some breathing exercises, and then I went and stepped out into the garden. And between all of those things that I did, I felt much better. Now, granted, I practice that actively whenever I'm stressed, and so it's become more effective as time has gone on, but you get the idea. The point is actively recognizing and then doing something about the stress.
So can I just ask, because this is one of my big things, but that's fine during the day, isn't it? You sit there in the garden.
Yeah.
So when I'm in a state, I get up, declutter my wardrobe, and there's
Okay.
3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But is that something that, should I be trying to do more breathing exercises, or is that okay to do that, to then do it and then try and go back to sleep, rather than sit there and think, I can't sleep, I can't sleep?
I think it depends what works best for you. I mean, for me, I think that I've never really tried decluttering my room at that time, but I do think that it could work because I do find myself feeling very relaxed after decluttering. For me, I don't love to actually get out of bed, although a lot of people do say to do that. But for me, it doesn't work because then my brain just goes like, oh, we're up now. So it depends what's good for you. However, if you could add to that list, so decluttering is on the list, so are breathing exercises, so is, I don't know, what are some other things that you find relax you?
Music.
Okay, so that could be third on the list. And then maybe you add one more and you say, this is my plan. So I'll start with that. If that works, great. I'll try and get back into bed. If that doesn't work, I'll add this in and I'll do some breathing exercises. Maybe I'll listen to music as well. And that way you've got more of an airtight plan in front of you. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
What about having a sleep during the day? Yes, no?
Hold that thought for now, because I have a whole slide on naps. Okay, nicotine. Smoking's an interesting one. Links to a lot of the things that we've talked about already. Now, nicotine, can cause a rise in your stress hormones, which means that, and obviously it depends on how accustomed you are to smoking, but that's one thing. It can cause sleep apnea, and that can cause sleep deprivation and sleep disruption, and generally is quite a stimulating experience. And so that's something to think about, and it's not just smoking cigarettes necessarily, but vapes as well. Nicotine generally is a stimulant, so that's something to think about. But then, of course, cravings is another story, and you know, that's a tricky one, but generally something to think about. Medication. What kind of medication?
Diuretics.
Diuretics. That's one that can prevent you from sleeping. I've got a list here. I'm not doing this as a joke. I do have a list.
Beta blockers, statins.
Nice. Yeah. Antidepressants, decongestants, steroids, statins, diuretics, and even sleep medications can cause sleep disruption. Those are a few examples, not guaranteeing that your specific medication is preventing you from sleeping, but it's something to think about. And it could be worth having a chat with the GP. It could be worth, just seeing if there are alternatives out there that are available. There are some medications which will also then affect blood sugar. So if I'm taking statins, which is a common one, and my blood sugar is rising and I've been told to take them in the evening, now my blood sugar's high, what's going to happen?
You become diabetic. So
Maybe.
they give you another bill.
Maybe, and also I'm going to be going to the toilet more at night and all of that stuff we mentioned before. So with that in mind, that's not me saying don't take your medication or anything like that, or change it without talking to your GP. That's talk to the GP, see if you can work something out. Say to them, I've been having this trouble. And actually, we talked about this in the last session we did, didn't we? We talked about not ignoring symptoms and like side effects of medication. So if one of them is, I'm not sleeping very well, that's something that you have to report back to the GP, because if you're not sleeping well, then the rest of your health is going to suffer. And that means that medication is really not doing you any favors, right? So that one's something for us to think about. Blood sugar, we already talked about why, but now let's talk about a few methods that you can take to improve that. So what are some of the things that we can do to stabilize our blood sugar later in the day? Nice. So eat earlier, don't eat too late, leave a longer gap between the last thing that you eat and falling asleep. That works for a lot of people. And that's really good if you can avoid the snacks later in the night as well. If I can't avoid the snacks, or I can't avoid eating late because it's part of my routine, or maybe it's part of my shift work or something like that, what are some of the other things, the adaptations I can make to the food themselves? Nice. Nice, so maybe I could have less sugar, so I could get a product that has less sugar in it, or just eat less of that product. I could get lower GI foods, and I can take a look at different versions, and I can swap foods out. So instead of having the white rice, I have the basmati rice, or instead of having the milk chocolate, I have some dark chocolate, and instead of having, you get the idea. So that could be something that you could do. We could add some more protein, fat, and fiber into the meals. That can make a big difference, same as the snack. Instead of just having the chocolate on its own, I have the chocolate with some nuts. Now I'm introducing some fat and fiber and protein that will reduce the impact that it has on my blood sugar. So that's another cool thing you could do. What's something that you could potentially do maybe after your dinner? Go for a walk, a little bit of exercise. It doesn't even have to be a walk. I could sit in my chair and I could do my steps and I could get moving a little bit, walk up and down the stairs a few times, but that movement is gonna do a little something. On top of that, I could start to include more, like for example, the chamomile tea is good, and other herbal teas are really good because the antioxidants inside of them help to improve insulin sensitivity. So you're actually gonna be producing more insulin and responding better to it, which is really cool. So that's blood sugar. Caffeine. What time did you say that you used to have a coffee?
I mean, I would be drinking coffee until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
But now I say my cut-off point is 9 o'clock.
Okay.
With the hope I'm going to be in bed by 11.
Okay. So even, I mean, you must have like a high tolerance for caffeine, because if I drank a coffee at 9, I don't think I'd sleep through the night at all.
Oh no, I mean,
There's a high tolerance for caffeine.
very
Yeah.
And one with milk, Costa coffee.
Yeah. I do drink decaf. Yeah, I do drink decaf. But I have tended, without even realising I'm doing it, I have a bottle of water next to me now, so I don't actually want the tea or the coffee.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Nice. So generally it's recommended that any time after midday, if you struggle sleeping, cutting down on your consumption of caffeine can help.
Oh, that's lunch then.
Oh mate, you've just spoiled my day.
I've just eliminated half of your coffees for the day.
Oh, yeah. But as I said, I would be drinking coffee, and like percolated coffee, or like so quite strong,
Yeah.
or machine coffees. And I'd have one before I went to bed. So that for the fact that I've done that,
Yeah, no, that makes a
an
difference.
impact on me
For sure.
personally.
For sure. So that is something to consider. My dad's like that. Like he can drink a coffee later in the day. He says it doesn't make a difference. I don't know, because he doesn't sleep well. So I don't know. We'll see. Temperature. Generally, lower temperatures are better, because when your body is preparing for you to fall asleep, your internal temperature goes down by about 1 degree Celsius, which doesn't sound like a lot, but internally that actually makes a really big difference. And there are things that you can do externally to help that along. So for example, obviously we can look at, our covers and our blankets and the temperature of the room. If, for example, you were to have yourself a hot shower or a hot bath, your external temperature would be high and your internal temperature then goes down in order to compensate and to bring your external temperature down as well. So a hot shower, a hot bath before bed can actually do the opposite of what it sounds like it's going to do. So that can actually be helpful. And then lastly is noise. How many of you sleep better with some kind of sound in the background? Okay. How many of you want dead silence? Okay, interesting. Pitch black as well, yeah. So,
Yeah, see, I can't sleep in the dark.
see, you know what? I sleep with my curtains open.
Yes, so do I.
I don't know why. It's a habit I got into about 5 years ago. It's because in the morning I like having the sun come in, but at night it doesn't, even the little bit of light that comes in doesn't bother me. However, sound, I don't like silence. I need to have some kind of sound on in the background. I always have the sound of rain, usually. Yeah, it's really nice. And then sometimes I'll have there's one on my phone which is like a busy bus, but I like it. It works for me. But you got to figure out what works for you in that case. So you could go through a story or some kind of meditation. You could then link things up. So for example, I'm going to put a fan on, which will give me a little bit of that background noise and also help me reduce the temperature. Or I'm going to put on a meditation, I'm going to do some breathing exercises that will help me deal with the stress, and that noise will give me something to focus on.
The one I use, you can have both going at the same time.
Okay. Wait, as in like two voices talking at the same time?
One noise in the background, and then somebody telling you the story. They
Nice.
get
Sleepy. It gets sleepy.
I don't know if I was sleeping.
Yeah, get sleepy. An actual
Oh,
get
no,
sleepy.
it's not called, no, this is just Sounds Jar, it's called. And then it says welcome to sleep sounds. I get told off when I call
I
it
never
sleep
heard the end of a
sounds.
story, but that's good.
That's a good sign.
But yeah, get sleepy. It's quite good.
Nice, get sleepy. Okay.
My downfall is TV, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and the TV is tricky because that's light, and the contents of the TV, like what you're watching, can make a really big difference. Like for me, I like watching comedy shows. I find it comforting. I don't like watching pretty much anything else, but especially like the news. I don't like watching anything intense or whatever, because immediately my stress levels rise, and then that's it. I'm thinking, and I So that might be your thing to take away with you today. But hands up if you have seen at least one thing from this list that you could adjust for yourself. Nice. And I already said there's a couple things that I'm working on there as well. So we're all in the same boat. To me, this is an example of I'm trying to take control of something. I'm going to try and make little adjustments. And you know what? Even if this doesn't entirely help you to sleep better, if you are taking steps to be less stressed, if you are taking steps to improve your routine, if you are taking steps to reduce your alcohol intake or your caffeine or whatever it may be, actually that will still benefit you, right? So there's no harm in trying these things, and the plus side might be that you end up sleeping much better. So that to me is a pretty cool trade-off.
If not, you're improving your overall health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because and don't get me wrong, there are things that I've not included in this. Like I don't consider myself qualified to talk about like sleep apnea, mainly because I don't know as much about it as other topics. I can't tell you to stop taking medication or anything like that, but be mindful of it. So again, this is up to you to take away what you think you could do. But I do understand that this doesn't cover everything. If you're in chronic pain all the time, that's difficult. But are there still things that we can do to make a difference? So before I move forward, are we happy with this? Do you have any thoughts, any questions, any comments?
In your book, have you got technology?
I actually don't. I thought about it later.
Why is that?
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
All the time, we talk about phones, iPads.
I know.
You mention it all the time. I thought he's not got it up there.
No, you know what?
It's your second book.
The second edition will be on the way.
But that's one of
Yeah.
outside.
No,
I
yeah.
had my phone on. The light from the phone used to trigger me, so I had the phone down on silent. And because we get messages when we do, don't we? We've got a very happy group, but it don't stop. Like someone will be thinking about something at 11 o'clock and they'll just post it on the WhatsApp.
Do you not put it on like do not disturb?
No, I just put it on silent.
Oh, okay.
So I don't hear
Oh,
that.
got you,
But
got you.
if someone's ringing me, then I will hear the buzz.
Got you.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Nuts to ring me after 9, but yeah. But I think that's a biggie for me.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like playing Scrabble, and now I don't do that.
See, when I think of technology, I think of it in the light category. But yeah, I get what you're saying. And the games alone is a big thing, because you might play a game that really stimulates your brain and then suddenly you're like wired.
You've got to bed, you can't think of it, and then all of a sudden it pops in you. I could feel that one in there.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is that we got to be particular, and the way that I think about sleep is that it's very fragile, and we need to approach it in that manner. Like, we need to approach it as if it is fragile, and we are just making little adjustments to see what improvements we can make. And I'm not promising that this will help you to sleep vastly long, you know what I'm saying, like long time. Let me say that in English. I'm not promising that this is going to vastly help improve your sleep. But if you can make little adjustments and you end up sleeping for an extra half hour, or you get into the deeper stage of sleep a few more times per week, you could feel a lot better.
That's still 3.5 hours extra a week, isn't it?
But it's also quality of sleep as well.
It's that REM sleep.
Yeah. But in saying that, this will help us to achieve that, because if we can get into sleep easier, that routine is in place, we're not stressed, our blood sugar's a little bit lower, we haven't had alcohol tonight, our caffeine intake was lower this afternoon, suddenly we are in a situation where our body is more likely to actually drift off into that rest. And our cortisol and melatonin levels are starting to regulate themselves better. So that's what we're really after, right? So, napping. Napping's a big one. Now, some people, I put this in here as its own slide because I'm a big advocate for napping. Not for everybody, but if you know that it works for you, do it. 20 minutes at 2 p.m. is supposedly the optimal nap. If we go over that, that's when we start to get groggier, because you're in a deeper sleep. But generally, 20 minutes to 30 minutes, you say 2 hours. I bet
you don't sleep during the night, so we'll
yeah.
let you off.
How do you feel after you've awoken?
Well, it takes me a long time to wake
Yeah, I
up.
can imagine.
2 hours. I think, I was just going to lay.
Well, if it's 2 hours, you've gone through a whole sleep cycle and then into another one. So yeah, you're invested by that point. Naps potentially can improve memory, your ability to learn, blood pressure, the immune system, and reduce stress. And sometimes, like I said yesterday, I had kind of a bit of a spiral myself. Sometimes I will just go and close my eyes for 20 minutes, and that goes away. And that makes a really big difference towards the rest of the day. So this is something to think about. And again, another little adjustment that you could make to the daytime. Or I'll give you one more. It's really important to consider your waking routine as well. So when we wake up in the morning, there are a few things that you can do that really help. One thing is activity. Another thing is light on your eyes. And when I say light, now I'm talking about outside light, ideally sunlight. Not looking at the sun directly, but rather being outside so that the sunlight can actually touch your eyes. Both of those things, the light and the activity, can help to increase your cortisol levels, get you active, wake you up, can help to improve your circadian rhythm if you do it daily. And then you're also getting your steps in, or you're getting your activity levels up. That could be something that you take from today as well. So it could be that starting tomorrow, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go out into the garden, I'm going to go out into the street, I'm going to walk for 5 to 10 minutes, just get myself moving, get the blood flowing a little bit. And that could be a good example of a day routine that you can change that can also help you to feel better today, throughout the day, but also then tomorrow, that will become more of a repetitive cycle itself, which will help improve that circadian rhythm. So that's another thing that you could consider, your daytime routine, whether that be napping or how you wake up in the morning. But are we happy with that? Is anybody really excited that I've just advocated for taking naps? Okay, So my last bit of advice is to keep some form of sleep journal. This is the example that's in the book, and this is the structure that I quite like. You don't have to do it like this, but what I like here is that you can quantifiably tell the difference in behaviors and how they affect your sleep. So you can actually see when oh my God, you can see when I wrote this, 2024. The behavior before bed. Reading, I went to bed at 10 p.m. It was a 7 out of 10 for sleep quality, and I can tell that by just how I'm feeling the next morning, and I slept for 7.5 hours. As opposed to scrolling on social media, which caused me to go to sleep at 1 a.m., I only got, it was only a 5 out of 10 in terms of sleep quality, and I only slept for 6 hours, and now I feel the difference, right? And so you could start to do this meticulously over time. What behaviors cause me to sleep well? What behaviors cause me to sleep poorly? Sometimes you won't be able to tell, sometimes it will just be an anomaly. But if you can quantifiably tell the difference between how different behaviors affect your sleep, then you'll have a much better idea of what you should be doing and maybe what we should do a little bit less, which means that that list that we've got here, we can narrow it down much easier. Can any of you see yourselves keeping some form of sleep diary, something like this? Or maybe using, a device, a watch, a smartwatch, something like that? Cool. So, to end the session, as always, we want to make a plan. We don't just want to, have the information there. We want to use it. The problem is, if I said to you, okay, go use this information and use it to reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease, that's a big task. That's a big ask for me to give to you. So what we want to do is we want to put it into the funnel. We want to break it down into a series of goals and actions that make it easier to approach the task. So, to decrease my risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease, I could improve my sleep. Specifically, I could track different methods of improving my sleep and make a new change every week. On a weekly basis, I'm going to keep track of my sleep and reevaluate. So this week, I have tried to change the temperature. That worked well. Tick, I'm going to keep that for later. Next week, I'm going to try to add a little bit of activity into my evening routine. Great, that actually worked well. Now I'm up to 7 hours. Let's try and boost that up. On a daily basis, I could create a sleep routine and address my caffeine intake. Now I've got a bedtime, I've got a good routine in place. I'm tidying up my room a little bit, I'm decluttering, I am cutting down on the alcohol after dinner, and I stopped having as much caffeine later in the day. And now suddenly, I feel really good, I'm tracking it, I'm improving my sleep, and as a result, I am reducing my risk of developing type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. But I don't need to worry about that if I'm doing this.
Is this in your book?
Yeah.
The one
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Another thing I would say that since I have improved I haven't woken up in the rare man slept walked.
All right.
I haven't done that for about 18 months.
And is that something that you would do?
Oh, really bad. Really bad.
Terrible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just behind the radiators and all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah. Whatever.
On the radiators?
Behind the radiators.
Oh.
It's all gone and it will be on the radiators.
Oh, okay.
Very strange.
Yeah, I pulled curtain rails out of the wall, raw plugs and everything, because I was dreaming there was a fire and I was trying to get out, but I was living it, doing it in my sleep. I've walked past people, spoke to them, gone back up to bed, didn't even know I'd got up. Like really bad, but I haven't done that for a long time.
Well, I'm glad that's not happening.
No, it was actually quite scary.
Yeah, I bet.
But obviously my husband used to have to walk behind me because he said he couldn't wake me up. But he had to make me safe. But there, he just don't turn no notice and just leave me. But no, I haven't done it. Yeah, he just oh, she's off. But no, I haven't done it I can't even remember. Well, not that I ever know, but...
Yeah. Well, good. Good. And I'm glad that your sleep has improved a lot. And I hope that everybody has taken something from today that you can apply, and I hope that it helps improve your sleep And next time you can show me all of the recordings that you've put down on your tracker. But for now, that brings me to the end. We did that in very good time.
I was about to say now you're saying to go out in the morning, have some fresh air. If say now I want to do exercise and diabetes and that, is it best to exercise and then eat, or eat and then exercise?
It depends on you. I personally, sometimes if I'm exercising earlier in the day, I will do it fasted. And I generally feel okay. But if I'm exercising later in the day, I like to have fuel in my system beforehand. So then what I like to do is, if I'm doing a rather intense exercise session, I will eat on average about 2 hours before, and then I'll exercise, and then I'll eat, more of my protein stuff afterwards. Whereas if I'm training in the morning and I feel good and I don't really need to eat just yet, I won't eat, but then I'll eat a bit more afterwards. So it just depends what you prefer. But if you're going to eat beforehand, actually either way, you could just use the same principles: more protein, fat, fiber, lower GI foods. If you are going to have the lower GI foods and the fat and the fiber and stuff beforehand, you might want to leave more time, because it will take longer to digest. So sometimes what I'll do is, if I'm eating a big meal, loads of fiber, loads of veg, whatnot, I'll eat that like 3 to 4 hours before exercising to make sure it's all digested properly. Whereas if, let's say, I'm about to go to the gym and I just want something quick, I'll have like a banana. So you can start to plan what you're going to eat around the activities that you're going to do and how much time you've got between then and now, or now and then. Do you have any other questions, anything that relates to today, or anything generally that you want to go through before we finish up this stuff?
Can I just say, I just think that for me, as I've got older and I'm less active, I'm spending more time in my head, if that makes sense, rather than out there doing stuff, physically out there working, chasing after buses and tubes, taking the kids all over the place. Shopping, all that sort of stuff. When you get a bit older, and I think this is part of the aging process. So we're not doing all that physical stuff anymore. And now, as I said, I think I'm living a lot more of my life in my head.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think that has an impact on what I can actually do. And is it part of the whole aging process for all of us? You look at everyone around you. I don't know anybody's age. But you don't seem to.
Frightened to go to sleep in case you can't wake up.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know. What I can tell you is that...
I'm living in my head as well.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said is definitely relevant, because... All right, so you said that you retired. You're not sleeping as good. You aren't as active as you were. The routine isn't in place as much. So those circadian rhythms probably aren't quite as strong. So, if we're adding that together, then that makes for a potentially less overall healthy person, which means that you might then be more susceptible to being more stressed, more, you know what I mean? Whereas the more activity and the more rest you do, you might actually feel better up here. Just like it said in the beginning, all those different health conditions relate to sleep deprivation alone. So if that element started to get better, you might feel up there a little bit less. I know that for me, when I'm generally feeling better, I'm generally feeling better, So I can't say that that's part of the aging process. I also haven't, I'm not there. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I can't say that I've lived that experience yet.
I think as you get older, your brain wants to do it, and your brain's going to do all these
My brain
and then you
does
go
love
to
to
do
do
it,
it.
and your body goes, oh, leave off, love.
Well,
Like every time I get halfway up the stairs, I go, I must get myself a bungalow. I don't want to go the other half.
Well, tell me this then. Is it a case of, I know that I need to do X, Y, and Z, but I don't feel as fit as I did before, and maybe, because I know that this is a common thing, that a lot of people struggle to accept that maybe they can't do as much as they did before.
Yeah.
So then,
it's like you feel like you've. I'm not going to say let yourself down, but you think realising you're nearly 60 is like, oh, do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's a bit.
I had that 25.
Oh, well, yeah, but
I know. That's what I was thinking.
yeah,
I'm like written off now.
Still doing the garden, huh?
Yeah.
I see. I had mine concreted about 5 years ago because I couldn't do it anymore.
Well, it is 150 yards long, I can't do it.
But so yeah, I think it is. You know, you say about X, Y, Z. You do X, you struggle with Y, you get to Z, you go nah. Leave it till tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, what about this? What if your challenge from today was to not make the comparison of what I used to be capable of doing, but rather just try and bit by bit add and add and add. And then what you might find is that actually I can get way closer to my previous capabilities, but I have to do it progressively. I can't jump to what I used to be able to do, which isn't fun. But that's unfortunately the only bit of advice I've got in that respect.
That's why I've got to push myself and I get up and I've got to go swimming. Then I think, well, how did I manage all of this and go to work,
Yeah.
put the kids up, and I'm running here, run for the train, do this, do that, and I think, oh God, I've got to really try and push myself.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The body gets used to what we do with it, but it also gets used to what we don't do with it. And so I do have to slowly continue to push myself onwards, especially because the older you get, the more difficult it gets. So then I should start doing that now before it gets to the point where I don't want to do X, Y, or Z. You know?
I ain't got that fast, but Y's a bit on the back burner at the moment. Yeah.
I get you.
And it is, as I say, it's a state of mind. Doesn't always match up with your body, no matter what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think with, I'm sort of on that, I used to do all aerobics and children and things like that. I think it's about, I like structure, but even if it's a bit of structure that I'm going to go and meet someone for a cup of coffee, I could have a cup of coffee indoors, but I need to get out. I think that's the thing, if you walk around, I don't know, walk around, but as long as I meet someone or just to see people active and life.
I get you. So being intentional about.
Yeah, a bit of simple thing, just a simple thing. So I give myself little things to do each day.
Nice.
And a little thing.
Nice. And how does that feel?
Yeah, I have to do it.
Nice.
Because otherwise I can go right like a reclusive otherwise.
What was the thing you did today?
Oh, well, I've been out. I've been out and had a cup of coffee with my friends and I went and
Nice. And you came here?
Yeah.
Nice.
But sometimes it's literally just, even if it's to post a letter, just to give myself something every day.
Nice. Nice. Well, I think we can all do a little bit of that. So that's your homework for today. Decide on something, practice it. Even if you do it once between now and the next session, or you'd manage to do it every day or once a week, whatever it may be, doesn't matter. Try a little something. Could be a tip from today. It could be a little tidbit from today or another session or the book. And then when you come back, share what it is you did, and then you might then inspire somebody else to do that same thing. Nice. Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to take this down, and I'm going to get the books out, and then how many of you want me to sign the book itself? Nice. The answer I was hoping for.
An investment here, you know that.
Yeah, we want you to be a bestseller and we can put it on eBay.
There we go. In which case, we'll sign all of them. Okay.
First edition.
They are. The others were tester copies. Okay, let's do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stack there. Who does not want to be on camera? We all happy? You don't want to be on camera?
Thank you.
So not Jean. Jean, put your hand up for me, please.
Just so we can basically show people that people actually buy the book.
Yeah, okay, oh yeah. I mentioned this at the beginning. We want to make a promotion video.
Don't tell me you've got disguises at the back that we've got to put on and go round again.
And we're going to have the line going out the door. I'm going to turn this off. We're going to film it on this one. All we're going to do is when you're ready, come up. We'll do the little sign-in, and then If you've got cash, we'll do cash. I've also got a card machine, and we'll just go from there.
How much is it? I didn't even know.
Oh, it's £10.
Yep.